It's 2:30 in the afternoon, and Miss Tristano, a rookie teacher, she's watching over her classroom of 60 fifth graders. That's twice as many as this room is designed to hold. It's the late 1950s, and it's the peak of the baby boom. Chicago simply has not been able to build school buildings fast enough. As everyone awaits the final bell, 2 girls volunteered for the daily ritual of emptying the classroom's wastebasket. Back then, every school had an incinerator down in the basement for garbage. Only minutes before, a boy on the same route decided to light a quick cigarette. When he was through, he absentmindedly flicked the contraband into a bin on his way back upstairs. The girls didn't notice as they passed on the way down, but as they headed back, the stairwell was full of thick, dark smoke, and flames they were spreading fast. At that moment, due to that building's construction, its fate was sealed. The question now was whether students and teachers would be able to make it out alive. But without having ever done a fire drill where people are trained what to do, time was of the essence. So in a panic, the pair ran back upstairs to tell their teacher. But Miss Tristano, she didn't know what to do either. She had her students stay put while she went and checked next door in room 207 with the more experienced teacher. Turns out that at this school, only the principal had the authority to call for an evacuation. So Miss Tristano sprinted down the hallway to the principal's office, got permission, and rushed back to her class. She quickly lined everyone up and led them out through the nearest exit. That was a door that happened to be right next to an outdoor staircase. At that exact same time, on the other side of the building, a janitor had spotted the red glow coming from the basement windows. He immediately told the housekeeper to go call the fire department while he ran to get a ladder to help. With her students finally safely outside, Miss Tristano ran back into the burning building to pull one of the school's only 2 fire alarm switches. Both of them were mounted 6 feet off the ground in order to discourage any student mischief. Once pulled, however, these alarms don't automatically notify the department. They only ring bells inside of the building. So even though everyone inside heard the alarms ringing, for many classrooms, it was already too late. The hallways were already impassable. They were completely filled with smoke. The only chance for kids trapped in the northeast side of the building was to await rescue through the outside windows, almost 3 stories above the ground. Meanwhile, the housekeeper finally reached a phone and dialed the fire department at 2:42 p.m. But in her panic, she gave the wrong address, 3808 Iowa Street. The school was actually located at 909 North Avers Avenue. Despite all that confusion, the first fire brigade actually arrived 2 minutes later, 2:44 p.m. They had to smash through a locked 6-foot iron gate just to get to the school grounds. And over the next 11 minutes, they rescued 160 children. But at 2:55, the building's roof finally collapsed, leaving 92 children and 3 nuns who never were able to make it out. News of this tragedy spread until it was the main topic of news across the globe. In fact, the response to this disaster was probably the fastest and the most sweeping reaction to any single fire in American history. People were horrified by the sheer scale and loss of just innocent lives, and the newspaper ran these heartbreaking photographs that were taken by local journalists that were able to effectively humanize the toll. Immediately, cities started taking threats from fire seriously. Los Angeles was particularly vigilant, where officials began staging drills called Operation School Burning. The school district donated a soon-to-be-demolished building to the fire department for them to be able to perform testing on. They set over 150 fires inside, and they included a wide array of sensors and documentation so that they were able to model the effects of smoke and survivability in a multitude of different scenarios. For example, the effects of different finish materials on classroom walls and how it affects temperature over time. Meanwhile, the National Fire Protection Association launched an investigation in Chicago trying to piece together exactly why so many died. They found a clear pattern in the fatalities. They were clustered around a very specific set of classrooms that were near the stairwell where the fire first started. All except room 207, which even though it's right in the middle of the highest of danger zones, all students got out safely. That room happened to have a back door leading to the same exit that Miss Tristano's class took to escape. The rooms further away filled with smoke last, and they were close enough to the other exits so that the students were able to get out safely. But rooms 208, 209, and room 210 had no easy way out once they realized the danger. These details helped the investigators understand exactly how the fire spread inside of this building, but the real problems that led to so many deaths were already obvious. The NFPA quickly blamed the Chicago Archdiocese for keeping kids in what they called, quote, a fire trap. Honestly, it's almost exactly what it was. There were dozens of problems here, basic safety issues that wouldn't pass even the most casual inspection today. Just look at the main stairwell, where it all started. It acted just like a giant chimney. The wooden stairs were perfect fuel, the hallway and windows below provided oxygen, and the open stair shaft above facilitated a stack effect, which pulled smoke upward rapidly, spreading it throughout the building. If the school had been built according to the building codes that were in place since 1948, over a decade before the fire, things would have looked very different. For starters, the stairwell would have been enclosed by fire-resistant walls, and the stairs themselves would have been made of materials that don't easily burn. Each floor would have had fire-rated doors that automatically close based on heat sensors detecting danger and keeping smoke contained into smaller areas instead of letting it spread throughout a floor. Those same heat sensors would have instantly sounded alarms, both inside the building and directly to the fire department, triggering sprinklers to douse the flames before they grow out of control. It would have also signaled an external box to show arriving emergency personnel exactly where the fire is located inside of the building. But none of those protections were in place, even though it was mandatory by law a full 11 years at that point. A fire inspection just weeks before the tragedy declared this building perfectly fine for occupancy. And technically, that was true, because it was built all the way back in 1903, long before anyone fully understood just how dangerous all of these design decisions would be. When new safety codes come along, older buildings usually get a free pass, and something that's called the grandfather clause. Basically says, hey, your building's old, you don't have to change it right away. But after this fire, when people realized just how dangerous that loophole was, the entire country said enough. Over the next year alone, more than 16,500 schools across the US, schools that had previously dodged safety upgrades, were finally brought up to code. In Chicago, things were even more intense. The fire commissioner at that time, Robert Quinn, he immediately put firefighters on guard duty at dozens of public and private schools that he considered to be high risk. They literally stood watch around the clock until the buildings were made safe. And on top of that, the city ramped up inspections everywhere, quickly checking every single school in the city. But it wasn't just the buildings themselves that needed fixing. Before the fire at Our Lady of the Angels, teachers weren't really trained for these kinds of things. Remember how Mr. Stano had to run to the principal first just to get permission to evacuate? That cost precious minutes. Afterwards, schools changed their approach so that teachers had clear instructions. If you see smoke or fire, pull the alarm immediately. Do not wait, don't ask permission, just get everyone out safely right away.
Don't hesitate, even for a second.
This marked a huge shift in how schools handled fires. Just trust teachers, trust their judgment rather than waiting around for someone higher to say go.
Do you know where that is? Or indeed what it is or how to operate it? Or will you be running around in circles trying to find it or looking for someone to do the job for you?
Schools and fire departments started working closely together, giving teachers training in how to act during a fire, to close the classroom doors, to keep out smoke, don't open doors if the hallway looks dangerous, and most importantly, how to calmly get kids out of the building. Another immediate change, and one of the more iconic, I think, came by way of fire drills. Before 1958, a lot of schools barely ever practiced evacuations. Some didn't do it at all. But after this tragedy, cities and states across the country passed laws making regular fire drills mandatory. Illinois, for example, requires 3 fire drills per year, a practice that quickly became standard across the United States, and that's a direct result of what happened at Our Lady of the Angels. The influence goes even further because firefighters also realized how important it was to practice evacuating in less than ideal conditions. Fire blocks exits, so schools began doing blocked exit drills, intentionally blocking the main escape routes during practice. And that way, students and teachers could learn to think quickly and find alternate ways out. All of these changes, better codes, regular drills, and teacher training, came together in reaction to this single event. And it wouldn't be long before these new approaches would be put to the test. Only 2 weeks after Our Lady of the Angels fire, an eerily similar one broke out in nearby Kenilworth, Illinois. It too was an older school building with combustible construction, with wooden interiors and things like that. This fire started in a closet at the base of a basement stairwell where it had the potential to grow and spread rapidly. It was almost the exact same setup. The main difference in Kenilworth is that the school had practiced a successful fire drill rehearsal following the new procedures. They even practiced a blocked exit scenario. And by sheer coincidence, or maybe some other force, the stairwell where the fire occurred was the very same one that was blocked during the drill. Not a single life was lost. In fact, since 1958, there's not been another school fire with more than 10 lives lost. So the mandatory changes enacted a reaction that seemed to have worked. That doesn't mean that we're out of the woods, though. New pressures on school buildings to protect against shootings or other dangers can create direct conflicts with fire safety. For instance, I think safety for one means susceptibility for the other. More doors for fire offers more points of access that are difficult to monitor and control. Even so, today in an average year, we'll see about 5,000 building fires across the US. but they rarely result in fatalities. The majority of these incidences are arson or students playing with lighters in the bathroom. Safer building design and training for students and staff has come a long way. But there's another shift that I think is relevant. The idea that you can just trust the way that a building looks to tell you if it's safe or well-built is always worth questioning. While an old brick church and school might look enduring because it's old, that doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't question whether it should stay that way. In fact, our next video goes into how our homes evolve in response to various pressures to change. Fire codes are one of them, but our home is impacted by social and behavioral and market forces. And we trace the formation and disappearance of the parlor and the dining room in this fascinating video, which is available right now, 3 weeks before YouTube on Nebula. In fact, if you only catch me here on YouTube, you're missing out on a ton of stuff, like building tours and a behind-the-scenes look at our new studio, which is only available on Nebula. But it's not just my videos on Nebula, it's powered by over 200 creators, including Wendover and City Nerd and Real Engineering, making it one of the most innovative streaming platforms out there. By pooling our resources, we push each other to create better, more ambitious projects. Some of the best content on Nebula comes from our original productions, where bigger budgets allow us to experiment with brand new ideas. For example, I would check out Neo's Underexposure. I think it's some of the most compelling documentary storytelling that's out there right now. Nebula offers flexible subscription plans. You have monthly, annual, and of course there's the lifetime option. And that means you can pay once and have access to everything Nebula ever creates forever. So start by catching that exclusive look into our next video by clicking on the link on the screen or in the description, or scan the QR code. You'll save 40% off of your Nebula subscription with my link and never miss a video again, and it'll only cost $3 a month when you sign up for a year. Plus, you'll be right at the heart of a media movement that's changing how creators and audiences connect. Check it out, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you over on Nebula.